Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. We live in a world of form, in a world of immense complexity and immense beauty. And it is made up of the elements, and we are made up of the elements. So there is a constant interaction between the elements in the world and the elements in our being. And they attract us. They pull us towards them, and we become enamored by them. We fall in love with aspects of the world. And these aspects of the world call out to us. They call out to us, and we, in turn, take them and take them into ourselves. And this leads to a difficulty, because with all of the interaction with the world, and with the world constantly pulling us and attracting us, it pulls us away from reality and pulls us into this world of creation, to where we forget the creator because we are so overwhelmed by the majestic nature of his creation. And this is something that we have to understand in its most subtle and minute form, because this world that we live in wants us to believe in it, wants us to acknowledge it's important for us, wants us to acknowledge how much it does for us and what it does for our life. But in reality, we have to make believe we believe in it, but we have to actually not believe in it. So in our interaction with this majestic world, we have to understand what it's doing to us and where it's taking us. It wants our involvement. It calls out to us. When you go by a rose bush, the smell of the roses attracts you and brings you towards it. When you go by birds, they begin to sing and they attract you and they catch your attention. They enamor you. A cat will come up to you and rub against you and want you to give it your attention. A dog will come up and lick you. He wants your attention. The entire world is reaching out for you and wants your attention. And if you give your attention to the world, certain things are going to happen to you. If you give your attention to the world, you will enter into situations wherein the world becomes more important than the creator of the world. All of these things exist in the external world. All of these forms exist outside of us. And these forms are given names by us. We call them dogs, we call them cats, we call them horses, we call them lions, we call them bears, we call them insects. We call them pictures, we call them tables, we call them chairs. There are so many millions of external forms, and all of these external forms have energies in their creations, and all of them have certain miracles in their beings. The birds have the miracle of flight. The fish have the miracle of being able to live in the water and being able to bounce themselves in the water and breathe within the water and find their way in the water. The birds can sing. The seals can swim in amazingly cold temperatures. All of these different animals within the world that we've given names to have miracles as to the way they live and the way they carry on. And man has miracles in the world. Man builds cities. Man builds airplanes. Man builds all of these things to the point where man thinks he's incredibly competent. Man thinks he can do anything. Man thinks he also is a miracle and can perform miracles. But all of these miracles are external to us. And when they are external, they are forms. But if we begin to give obeisance to them, if we begin to fall in love with them, then they enter us and they come inside of us. Outside, they're forms, but inside, when they enter us, they become poisons, they become spirits, they become energies that are attached to the earth. They become energies that are attached to the elemental forms. So what we're doing is we're taking these elemental forms that we see on the outside and we bring them inside of ourselves. And when we bring them inside of ourselves, we are now internally attached to the elements. And this internal attachment to the elements is what brings about rebirth, because we become inside what's outside, and instead of transcending and leaving this elemental outside world, we stay in this elemental outside world, outside and inside, and a connection is made between the two, and we can't escape. So those of us who are gathered here, we're gathered because we're looking for a way to escape. We want to know the way out. And the teacher explained to us the way out. He said, first, you have to chase all of these elemental forms that you've fallen in love with, that are inside of you. You have to chase them out of yourself. You can't hold on to them. And as you hold on to them, they overcome you. And eventually, they will kill you. And how do they kill you? They kill you because they separate you from reality. And being separate from reality is your death. And that death shows itself in rebirth in the same situation that you are now, over and over and over, because you've become in love with the world. And that is a form of hell. This repetition of the same thing over and over and over and over is a form of hell. You may think it's something other because your fantasies tell you it's something other, but it's the constant repetition of living in the elemental world. Your true life exists somewhere else. True wisdom exists outside of the elemental world. And we have to find a way outside of the elemental world. But this body, which is elemental, is constantly grasping for things, is constantly in a state of desire, is constantly in a state of need. And to fulfill this need, lots of very negative things occur to us, things that we believe somehow assist us in getting what we need. Egoism, illusion, lust, anger, all of these things make us think that we're accomplishing something in the world. Miserliness, delusion, enmity, thievery, murder, all of these things are done to supply what this body needs, to fill this body's hunger. And this body's hunger ranges over a multitude of things. Different people are hungry for different things. And the pangs of this hunger make people do things that are incredibly strange. It makes people think they need to be more important than others because they have this hunger for power. It makes people think that people should bow to them because they have this hunger for fame. They have a hunger for wealth. They have a hunger for real estate. They have a hunger for women or men. And all of these different hungers that come about in the body cause us to transgress against the things that are holy, that cause us to transgress against the things that are pure, that take us to places where we shouldn't be going. But again, this connection between the outer elemental world and ourselves, and swallowing this outer elemental world and putting it into ourselves, creates all of these reactions that man has to his hunger. Karma, Maya, illusion, all of these needs, all of these desires, all of these things that we want. Well, this is because we've fallen in love with the world. And we should be making believe that we love the world so we can escape from it. We shouldn't actually be loving it. We should actually be believing in God, not making believe we believe in God. And that's what most people do. They make believe they believe in God, but they actually believe in the world. So they do what they think is necessary to show their compliance to religion or their compliance to morality, but in secret, they live this life of worldly consumption and of worldly interaction and of worldly interplay and looking for satisfaction in the world. Well, the truth is, the world can't give you very much. It can give you a place to learn so that you can try to escape it. But if you try to take from it, you're going to end up with poisons. The snake can only give you poison. The donkey can only give you loads to carry. The different animals, they may have a miracle, but what good is the miracle of flight if it doesn't take you anywhere? What good is being as fast as a cheetah if you don't have anywhere to go? What good is being able to make roads through the jungle like an elephant if you don't know where you're going and you don't know what to find? We have to turn inside and we have to clear out our inside. We have to make ourselves pure and we have to become small. Why do we have to become small? Because we have to be reborn. We have to be reborn as an embryo within that part of us that is real. We have to be reborn again within God so that we can grow up again as a light being. But we can't do that. We can't become small. We can't become an embryo if we're full of arrogance. We can't become an embryo if we're full of lust. We can't become an embryo if we're full of anger or miserliness or delusion or enmity or religion or fanaticism or ignorance or any of these things, because embryos are pure. They are without all of the embellishments of this earth. They are without all of the soil of this earth. They are without all of the evil qualities of this earth. They are a new beginning. And if we're going to start a new beginning, we have to rid ourselves of all of the pollution that has entered us through this lifetime. And if we can't be rid of this pollution, we can't be an embryo. We can't be something that starts fresh, that starts new. So we need to begin to empty ourselves and believe in God. Now, the world will try to eat you. The world will try to destroy you. The world will try to bring you into an everlasting recurrence of life within this world, life and death and rebirth. God is not looking to do that to you. God is not looking to give you rebirth. God is looking to give you eternal life as a body of light. And to create this body of light, we have to give up the attachment to form and the attachment to the body of form. And it's only in this way that we can escape. If we turn towards God and turn away from the world, God will protect us. God will give us what we need to grow into that light form. And when that light form grows, that light form enters into the light form that is reality, which is God. And then this huge mystery exists, this intertwining of our light form with the one light form. And in the unity of that one form, we exist then as truth. And then man becomes insan kamil. Man becomes true man. Man becomes wisdom. Jesus said, you have to be born again if you want to know God. Well, how are you born again? You are born again by recreating yourself from this elemental being to a new form, a form without form, a form of light, a form that is beyond all that is elemental. But the elements never stop chasing. It is told that when the prophet went on Mirage, he heard the sound of a woman giving him salams, and he was with Gabriel. And Gabriel said to him, don't turn around and don't give salams back. And they kept going towards Allah. Then he heard another voice. This time it was a man giving him salams. And Gabriel, who was with him, said, don't turn around, don't give him salams. Let's keep going forward. And the prophet asked Gabriel, who was the woman who gave me salams, and who was the man who gave me salams? And Gabriel said, the woman who gave you salams was Maya, the illusion of this world. And she wanted you to turn away from God and turn towards her. And then she was going to entrance you, or attempt to entrance you, with her beauty and with her form, and pull you back into the world. When you bypassed her, when you heard the man giving you salams, that was Satan, the discarded one, who wanted to take you to his locale, who wanted to take you to hell with him through showing you all of the wonders of the world and trying to get you to fall in love with the wonders of the world. But you can't turn towards them. You have to keep going in that one direction. So we, each of us, individually, has this constant struggle to go through. And the prophets had the same struggle. They were pulled by the forces of Maya, the forces of illusion, and the forces of Satan. And so are we. All of us go through the same temptations, the same difficulties, the same trials, and the same tribulations. And if we allow these trials and tribulations and difficulties to get the better of us, we become stuck. If you begin to suffer because of your difficulties in the world, you become stuck. You can't move because of your suffering. Your suffering overwhelms you. It overwhelms you to the point where it keeps you stagnant. It stops you from going forward. You're constantly feeling sorry for yourself. You're constantly worrying about your situation. We have to detach ourselves from our situations. We have to detach ourselves from the drama of this life. We have to detach ourselves from all of the ups and downs and the roller coaster ride, the praise and blame of this world. And we have to become free of it. Until we become free of it, we are constantly reacting to the pangs that are induced by our own hunger. So when we become hungry, we react. Now, the simplest form of reaction when you become hungry is you eat, but you have hunger on so many different levels. You have hunger in so many different ways. And each of these hungers is trying to pull you, grab hold of you, and control you, and keep you trapped within this elemental world. Now, there are three worlds. There's this world of form, there's the world of souls, and then there's the light world of God. This world of form is going to be hell for you unless you can escape it. It's a school that you have to graduate. But if you can't get out of it, it turns into hell. It turns into a constant cycle of rebirth wherein you keep descending into the forms that you've fallen in love with. So if you want to be arrogant like an elephant, you may come back as an elephant. If you want to have flight, you may come back as a bird. Whatever that you fall in love with, whatever you are elementally connected with, that's your rebirth. It's not necessarily a rebirth as man again. Man is the highest form of birth in this creation. And man's purpose is to move on to one of the other worlds. And that other world is the world of light. So You come from the world of souls into this world, and then from this world, you are meant to go into the world of light. But to go into the world of light, you have to be reborn as a light body. And to be reborn as a light body, you have to detach yourself from the elemental body. You have to detach yourself from all that you have internalized that is elemental forms. You have to detach yourself from all of the animals in this world. You have to detach yourself from the dogs and the cats and the tigers and the bears and the rhinoceroses and the elephants and everything else that you see in this world. Each of those animals represents a quality. Each of those animals represents a quality that is elemental. You have to detach yourself from the fire. You have to detach yourself from the water. You have to detach yourself from the earth. You have to detach yourself from the air. You have to detach yourself from this world and all of the 4 trillion elemental forces within this world. Each of the animals has an elemental force. Each of your thoughts about the world has an elemental force. Everything that you think about and everything you interact with this world has an elemental force. And if these elemental forces enter into you, they become poisons inside of you. Poisons that restrict your ability to move on to where you're meant to go, which is the world of light. And when you understand that, and when you get hold of that, and when that becomes important to you, that's when you begin to change. Satan's purpose is to distract you from God. Maya's purpose is to distract you from God. Illusion's purpose is to distract you from God. The qualities of Satan, anger, are meant to distract you from God. Suffering is meant to distract you from God. Lust is meant to distract you from God. Enmity is meant to distract you from God. Religions distract you from God. They get you involved in the fanaticism of my way is the right way. My way is the only way. And they create differences. God has no differences, and true man has no differences. God has no need for all of the things that man has need for in this world. God has no need for real estate. Man would have no need for real estate when he becomes a true man. God has no need for fame. Man will have no need for fame when he becomes a true man. God has no need for wealth in this world, and we will have no need for wealth in this world when we become a true man. God has no need for the things within this world. They are his artwork. They are what he has displayed for us to understand better his majesty. But we need to fall in love with that which created that majesty. We need to fall in love with that which is behind all of that, not the elemental form that we see. Our eyes have become enamored with what they see. Our ears have become enamored with what they hear. Our nose is enamored by what it smells. Our tongue is enamored by what it tastes. Our hands are enamored by what it touches. And we take all these things inside of us. And as they come inside of us, they pollute us. They pollute us because on the outside, they are forms. On the inside, they are poisons. And we need to rid ourselves of these things. We need to chase them from our beings. We need to get them out of ourselves so that we can start over again. and be born again. And if we don't get all of this out of us, we're not going to be able to be born again. And if we're not able to be born again, then we are meant to be born again in this world through reincarnation over and over and over, and repeat the same mistakes, or even worse, become lower on the table of transcendence. So we need to begin to understand that we need to become very, very small. We need to give up all of our ideas of our greatness. We need to give up our titles. We need to give up our importance, because nothing in this world is important. What's important is God. And we make the things in this world important. And what do in reality? They pull us away from God. They pull us away from truth. They pull us away from our birthright. And our birthright is to become God-man. The mystery within us and the mystery within him, and the intermingling of that mystery. That's what's truly available to us. But it's available to us by walking in a certain direction. And the Quran calls it the straight path. So if we are to overcome our connection to the earth, if we are able to overcome our attachment to the earth, if we're able to overcome our attachments to this world and the things in this world, if we are able to overcome them, then we can start over. Then we can begin again as an embryo. Now, think of an embryo. An embryo has no attachment to this world yet. An embryo is fresh and new. And this embryo that we need to create within ourselves is an embryo of light. And this light being has to grow and grow into a being that is capable of intertwining with the Creator, a being without form. Its form is formlessness. Its reality are the transcendent qualities of the Creator. And when the transcendent qualities of the Creator mix with that embryo, we begin our true path. And by relying on God, He will allow this to happen in us. So what is our work? Our work is to stop the reliance on the world and transfer that reliance to our Creator. He will protect us. He will bring us forward. He will take us to the truth, and He will make us into reality. He will let us understand what real is, what haq is, what hakikat is, what true man is. He will bring about the true birthright that belongs to every single one of us. But to do this, we have to give up all that we learned in this world. We have to give up our minds. We have to give up our desires. We have to give up everything that this world taught us. And we have to turn around and go on the straight path. And this is what becomes our prayer. We say it, if we do the prayers, at least 5 times a day. Take us on the straight path. Well, what is the straight path? The straight path is the one that takes you out of this world. The straight path is the one that takes us from illusion to reality. The straight path is the one that takes us from egoism and suffering to the ecstasy of knowing our Lord and becoming part of our Lord. stop the world, I want to get off. Well, you can, but in order to do it, you have to consciously make the effort to leave it. And how do you leave it? You leave it by leaving its qualities. You leave it by leaving its attachments. You leave it by no longer being enamored by it, by no longer being in love with the world, by giving up all of the attachments to this world. Then a change will come and wisdom will come. The Sheikh calls it jnanam, that state of wisdom, that state of divine wisdom, of divine understanding, of divine being. Each of us is meant to be part of the divine being. Each of us is meant to be part of divinity. So in order to do that, we have to change our inclination, we have to change our intention, we have to change what we love. So stop believing in the world, even though you may make believe you live in the world so you can escape from it. Start believing in God. Don't make believe you believe in God. Truly believe in God and begin to take the steps towards Him so that we can be born again within Him. May that be what happens to each of us. May that be our path. May we all go on the straight path towards reality. Ameen, Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.